Congratulations, guys. This is our first note video, and it's basically just how to use your calculator. It's going to be your best friend. Love a good calculator. And so you should have a calculator with you right now. Don't just watch this for watching it. Mine's gray. Yours will have like a gray or possibly like a yellow back or something like that. It's the same thing. So make sure you have this, and I'm just going to show you some awesome tips and tricks that are going to help you so much this year. You're going to love it. Okay? So the first thing, and these are notes, right? So make sure... Oh, well, that is not what I wanted you to have happen. Okay, so make sure you have on your piece of paper the title of your notes. So the title of these notes are How to Use My Calculator. So that should be the first thing that's on the top of your notes. Okay, so now we're going to go to this next page here. And what I want you to write is somewhere put how to input a fraction into the calculator. Now, you don't have to write that down word for word, but something in your own words that basically says, oh, this is how I deal with fractions in this calculator. Now, you may know how to deal with this. Like, oh, I already know this, no big deal. Stay with me. Let's just get through this process so you really know what's happening. Then I put a whole bunch of disgusting looking fractions here. I mean, everyone loves fractions, right? It's their best friend for sure. But they're actually super easy to deal with in the calculator. Okay? So right now, don't write anything, or actually pause. Write this first problem right here. Okay, so write that down. And we're going to deal with that one first, okay? So we've already written that down. It's beautiful. So now, go to your calculator. Don't write anything down. Just go to your calculator. To put in 3/4, you can do it a couple different ways, but the easiest way is I want you to hit this green button, alpha, and nothing really happens except for a little A pops up here, and then this button right here, which is Y equals. Alpha Y equals, and all this stuff happens, okay? Don't worry about all that stuff. Just hit enter down here. Alpha Y equals enter. And oh my gosh, it pops up with this fraction. So you're just going to type in 3. So I'm going to hit 3 there. And then I'm going to hit over. And I'm going to put 4. 3/4. Okay? Now, don't put a plus sign down here, because if you just hit plus right now, it's going to be a tiny little plus. You don't want that. Okay? So what you're going to do is, see how on yours you have this little over arrow. So you're going to hit over. And now it's typing big again. Okay? So now I'm just going to hit my plus sign. Fantastic. And now I have another fraction, 6/7. Correct? So same thing. We're going to hit this alpha and then the Y equals, alpha Y equals, and enter. Alpha Y equals enter. It's great. And then you do 6. And you can hit over or you can also hit down. Perfectly fine. And then 7ths. And then hit over. 3/4 plus 6/7. Okay? Fantastic. And then I just hit enter. And oh my gosh, that is 45th 28ths. Okay? So that's my answer. I'm going to put that, you can write that down on yours. Equals 45th. That's not a pen. There we go. 45/28 is your answer. Now, if you were to do that by hand, you'd have to find a common denominator, make them equivalent, and then add those like terms, or add your terms together, and you get the same answer, but our calculator does that for us. Okay? Super helpful. So, let's do that again with this one right here. So go ahead and write this problem down. And then we're going to practice it. And then I'm going to have you write some notes. So same thing. I see a fraction. I'm going to hit alpha Y equals and hit enter. Okay. And then we're going to do, now that number in front, make sure it's negative. -2. And then go down and then 3. And then hit over. Yet again, make sure you're hitting over. And then this dot right here means multiply. So we are going to hit this multiplication button right here. So here it's a dot, here it's a star, same thing. Alpha Y equals enter. And it says 5/6. So 5 and then a 6 down there. Okay, just hit enter. And it's -5/9. Awesome. -5/9. So -5/9. Okay. Now, you could do that in your head. You don't have to write this down, but like for example, you should know that I can like reduce this. So I can reduce 2 by 2, which would give me 1, and 6 by 2, which gives me 3. And 1 times 5 is 5, and 3 times 3 is 9. But that's kind of gross and disgusting sometimes. And we make mistakes because fractions aren't the easiest thing in the whole world. So we have that calculator there for us. So what I want you to actually do right now is now grab your pencil. You can put the calculator away for just a second. And we're going to write some steps. So remember your steps here for fractions. Are you going to hit alpha, which if you need to know, that's the green button. On some calculators, it's a yellow button, so it kind of just depends on what your calculator is, or sometimes even blue. So alpha, and then you hit the Y equals button, and then you hit enter. alpha y equals enter. Okay? Now, if you have a mixed number like this, 2 and 5/8, you can sometimes put the 2 and then the 5/8, but what is sometimes better is just to make it an improper fraction. In algebra, we are going to be dealing with almost always improper fractions. We don't really deal with mixed numbers. And we'll talk about that as the classes go on. But if you want to, you can just change this. If you remember from middle school, we make this improper. So we multiply this. 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 plus 5 is 21. And you get 21/8. If I can write on my board, which apparently I can't. 21/8 minus 1/3. Okay? I would recommend doing that because sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't, and you guys are not so versed in the calculator to know when to do what. So yet again, it would be the same process. Alpha y equals, enter, right? And you would do 21 and then go down and hit 8. And then that's minus. And then again, alpha y equals, enter. And the more you do this, guys, the faster you're going to be. In the beginning, it's weird because you're not quite sure about it, but in the end, you're good. And that's 55/24. Super gross fraction, but no worries because you know how to do it in the calculator. You got it. Okay? Beautiful. So that's fractions. So no more do I want to hear, oh, I can't do that. I can't do 2/3 times 7. That's too hard. No, your calculator does it for you. Just push your buttons. Okay? So that's the main one. The next one, super easy, is how to make a decimal into a fraction. So I want you to write that down, how to make a decimal into a fraction. Or it's also how to reduce a fraction. So your calculator can reduce fractions as well. Okay, it's magic. It's beautiful. We are so excited about this. So go ahead real quick with me. And if we go here, this says divide 12 divided by 8. So 12 divided by 8. And we get 1.5. Okay? And sometimes we want 1.5. But a lot of times in algebra, we're actually going to run the fraction, the improper fraction, and your calculator does this for you. So all you're going to hit is we hit alpha before, but now we're going to hit underneath it where it says math. So I want you to hit math, and see right here where it says frac, that stands for fraction. So all you're going to do is you already hit math, and you're going to hit enter, and then enter again. And that decimal, 1.5, that fraction is 3/2. So that answer, so you can put here, it's 1.5. But as a fraction, which is what we're going to need more often, is 3/2. And that's it. Super simple. Okay? So let's do that again. Same thing. 12 divided by 8. This is more like elementary school, somewhat middle school. This is how we'll write this now in high school. This is 24 divided by 10. I very rarely write this symbol. It's almost always as a fraction. So 24 divided by 10. So I do 24 divided by 10. I hit enter. It's 2.4. It's fantastic. It's 2.4. And 2.4 is correct. But a lot of times you're going to need to make that into a fraction. So how you make it into a fraction is you hit math, enter, enter. And it's 12/5. So that reduces to 12/5. Which you might be able to say, okay, Miss Molina, I could totally do that because I know that 24 and 10, I can reduce them by 2. So 24 divided by 2 is 12 and 10 divided by 2 is 5. That's awesome. That's fantastic. You go for that, okay? But if you're maybe not so great at fractions and how to reduce them, this is such a lifesaver. It's so great. And the last one, we're even going to multiply. Now, this is a lot of dots here, but this is 2.5. Remember, this means times 3.5. So in our calculator, we do 2.5 times 3.5. And we get this lovely answer, 8.75. Looks amazing, right? Well, I just math, enter it. And I get 35/4. And for us, that's perfectly fine. We don't have to make that into a mixed number. We can just leave that just as it is. It's perfectly fine. Okay? So for you, the steps you need to write, the thing you need to remember most, and you're going to use this all year, guys, is it's math, and then it's enter, enter. Math, enter. All right? Easy peasy. The very last thing we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about it real quickly, is when to use a negative or a minus. And y'all, some kids mess this up a lot, and it's kind of hard to have an easy rule that matches it always, and we're going to practice this. Sometimes you use a negative, and sometimes you use a minus. So, real quick in your calculator, this down here is negative. Down here by the enter button, that is negative, and then the minus sign is up here, because we have adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing right here. So this is negative, this is minus. So, if I had this, you would say 6 minus 10. That's what you would say, right? 6 minus 10. So since I'm saying minus, I'm going to type in 6 minus 10. And I hit enter. I get negative 4. You should have already known that just based off of like how to subtract numbers. But there you go. Negative 4. So that's a minus. And a lot of times I say minus is in the middle. Doesn't always work, but for the most part it does. Here though, these symbols look the exact same. Like that symbol is the same length as that symbol. What am I doing? Would I say minus 6 minus 10? Or would I say negative 6 minus 10? Right? Negative 6 minus 10 sounds better, and that's what you're going to do in the calculator. So you hit this negative down here, negative 6, and then minus 10. In your calculator, the negative is going to be smaller for sure. And then boom, negative 16. So normally, if it's in the front, it's negative. Actually, if it's in the front, it's going to be negative. And normally, if it's in the middle, that's a minus sign. But you might be saying, yes, Miss Molina, ugh, so easy. But just to be sure. Now here, yet again, would I say 10 minus minus 3? Is that what that would say? Or would I say 10 minus, and then this whole thing, which is negative 3? And what some of you are going to say is, but these are the exact same length. I know, I'm aware. But when you would say it, you would say 10 minus negative 3. So in your calculator, 10 minus, and just because they're there, I'd go ahead and put a parenthesis, which is right there, negative 3, parenthesis. Hit enter. Ah, 13. Like, Miss Molina, I'm subtracting. Why did it get bigger? Ah, because when I minus a negative, the whole thing becomes a positive, and 10 plus 3 is 13. For sure. Okay? So, your calculator is going to be one of your best friends. It's going to help you out, and it really does equalize the playing field. If you're not great at multiplying and dividing, or even adding or subtracting, that calculator does it for you. You no longer have to worry about those things as much. Okay? If you have any questions, you let me know.